Ken, when we think of the iconic sets in Star Trek, one of the ones that always seems to stand out, doesn't matter what ship you're aboard, is the engineering.
Right.
I gotta ask you, though, is there one that stands out to you as kind of the be-all, end-all? If you picture, a Star Trek engineering set in your head, what is the one that you typically envision?
I think for me, and this is because I really dove into the original series, as the first series I really went through episode by episode, I always think of Scotty's engineering room. I know it's not like the Berman era, there's a certain consistency in how an engineering room looks.
Yeah.
Whereas...
You've got your dilithium chamber, you've got the pulsating warp core.
Yeah. Whereas the original series one does look different, but there's something about it that always captures me. I think it's maybe the red, chain link fencing on it, and also just how it looks like this massive space, which obviously it wasn't. It was just a set, but they just through trickery, camera trickery, and then set design, make it look like this massive open area that Scotty is working in, and I really, really admire that.
So if somebody says the word engineering to me, I automatically go to the TNG set there.
Right.
You've got the pool table that everybody loves. You got Geordi's office, which kind of cool there. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I've never been a fan of is the look of the warp core, in that you've got these fluorescent lights. It looks so 1980s. It always takes me out of it. So my favorite warp core has to be the one that we saw in the first few seasons of Voyager. It's more the pinkish warp core. Do you ever know why they switched over to the blue warp core?
No, I don't,
I can never figure it out. And I thought that the pink one just looked gorgeous as we saw kind of the swirling sort of lava lamp look of it.
Yeah.
And it's actually coming back to, I guess, what we had with the original series movie era. Mm-hmm. It is more reminiscent of the warp core from that, which is kind of curious, though.
Yeah.
I just wonder why we were not able to accomplish that in TNG era when we got that cool-looking warp core from the TOS movie era.
What I actually really love about the TNG one, and you just brought it up, is the pool table office section.
Yeah.
Like with the Scotty one in the original series, he'll be off to the side punching on a control panel, but it doesn't really look like a cool place to shoot a scene. Whereas that table, I always think of scenes with him at the table trying to solve problems like Barclay and Wesley, and that is a great side set off of the original, and it really does offer a lot of versatility to the engine core that the original series doesn't have.
So what do you think with, say, what the Enterprise was trying to do, where they're kind of melding different eras?
Yeah.
You see the TOS influence there. You also see kind of the next-gen influence there as well. Do you think that I actually kind of like it, though. Like, it works for me. It seems kind of utilitarian in the way that the NX-01 was always trying to be utilitarian.
I think the problem with the Enterprise one, and I don't hate it. I don't really hate any of the engineering setups, but I think there's something that feels very limited about it. Like, you've got the catwalks, which are kind of nondescript. They don't have the personality of the original series. Red fenced off areas. They just don't feel as imaginative. But the area with the actual warp core, if you're not up on that platform, like Trip is, looking over this thing, it's kind of a dead set. Like, if you shoot an actor just walking around the lower sections, it doesn't look very good visually. It
feels as if you're just walking through some nondescript sort of factory.
Yeah, like it does.
Much like in the Kelvin Verse, where it is literally like a beer brewery owned by Budweiser that was their engineering. I think that might be the dopiest engineering set that we've ever had. And I like the Kelvin Verse. I just was not a fan of that engineering whatsoever.
Okay, what do you think they were thinking when they decided to go that route?
I think they just wanted something like massive.
Really expansive.
Yeah. And they were like, well, and what looks utilitarian? And this is what we ended up with. Scotty flying around through tubes. So
was there nothing in terms of like a scientific research place they could have shot that might have looked more impressive other than like giant kegs of beer?
Yeah, really. Last one we need to talk about, though. I still can't grasp what's going on with, say, Star Trek Discovery, though.
Yeah.
Because, like, we're getting mixed messages. The producers have said that we have not yet seen engineering, that what we're actually looking at is a science lab, but it seems as if, like, we do see engines from, like, that little window in the science lab, though, because they also close the window every time they go to warp speed or at least the spore drive. So I'm very confused about what engineering holds for Discovery.
Yeah, for me, like, when I think engineering with Discovery, I know it's not the engineering room, but my mind immediately goes to the spore room where, Ripper was plugged in, for example. Like, that's what I think of because the show has not given me an alternate. And in terms of that setup, I actually think it's fairly imaginative. It's unique. It doesn't look like anything else I've seen in a Star Trek show, so I don't mind it at all. But in terms of the room with all the control panels and everything, it's fine. It doesn't feel like they really, broke the bank of ideas with that one.
Okay.
But it's fine.
You know what? One more. What do you think of the Defiant? They introduced an engineering set a little later on into the run of Deep Space Nine. It's very much of the kind of 1701D sort of look and feel, but I kind of like it. It's its own sort of thing, but it still feels distinctly Starfleet of that era.
It does, and it also gives O'Brien a space of his own to kind of operate. Like, you look at, I think a lot of the reason these sets exist is so that, LeVar Burton, Jimmy Doohan, they get their own environments to actually give a performance from. They're not just off screen, talking over, their, like, communication devices, being like, yeah, everything's good down here. It actually gives them their own environment. And as well as engineering often gives them, like, an arena for action scenes. Like Khan getting hit with, like, a wrench or something like that.
Yes.
But, like, I like that they gave O'Brien his own place to actually exist as a character. And I think if I'm going to start ranking the engineering sections, I can't say the Defiant one is the greatest, but I like that it exists.
Yeah, I think it's better than when O'Brien was constantly on the bridge of the Defiant at his console instead of actually manning the main engineering.
Or just like inside a catwalk, like in the floor.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry guys, I got this.
That's the O'Brien we all know and love.